guys, it's Venerable back with Carpe Vanguard deck profiles. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and sorry. This time we're covering our last deck profile for DZ set 6, and that is Stoicheia Stoicheia. So this is the one where you use multiple codex orders, aka scripture orders from the last time before this deck updated with English text, and you want to play multiple of them at a time, call back your rear guards, get about 5 attacks, and then bully your opponent down with multiple attacks, crit pressure, but also lower their power and then lower their drive checks as well. How efficient is that in the competitive scene? 50-50. But this deck has gotten some pretty good upgrades with this last set. I mean, good upgrades in the set, so we have more ways to search the order. So let's get this started, shall we, and see what we got. First update, we have our generator. It's our ride deck crest. Auto ride deck. When you ride, put a card to your crest zone. If you win second, you get to energy charge 3. Continuous, you may have 10 energy. Auto not being of the ride phase. Energy charge 3. Then act once per turn. Energy by 7. Draw a card. So you get free 3 energy every turn. You get a total of 10 free energy throughout the fight. And not to mention the fact that you get to draw a card by energy bossing 7. This deck doesn't really have any energy users, so being able to energy boss 7 whenever you feel like to get a draw is also nice to have. It's a mandatory card to have in the deck, so obviously this is our ride deck crest. Moving on to our starter, we have Umbrella Flower Banana. Grade 0 boost, 5k show, 6k base, auto roll 5 and draw card, standard starter, not about free draw if you go second. Another ride line really requires this as the starter. I choose to make this the starter though because I like to run the canonical ride lines of all decks. Therefore, Banana is going to become the starter here even if it's not necessary, but do you building the deck. Moving on to our triggers, we have our Overtrigger and Source Dragon DD of Blessings, Bus Favor. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, standard Overtrigger. You may have more trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one move, against the play for the turn. If it draw check, activate it's a disfet, which you get to draw a card, choose one move, give it a crit for the turn. Your attack farmer gets 10,000 power, and if you're damaged on the same number of cards your opponents or more, you get to heal a card. All around pretty solid because you get a guaranteed free in a million to draw, whether you drive checks or damage check this. But if you drive check this, you get a secondary draw. Someone gets a crit, either the Vanguard or the thing you're giving the million to. Your entire farmer gets 10,000 power, and you also get a possible heal out of it. All around, I really love Bus Favor. It's my favorite of the Overtriggers because it's an everything bagel. It doesn't auto guarantee you the win when you pull it, but it does make it a hell of a lot harder to lose. So all around, Bus Favor is my Overtrigger of choice. You can run Volna for more multi-attacking. You could run Asphoria for recycling. You could also run the Dark Overtrigger for healing and calling, but I prefer Bus Favor for it's just really fun to pull. Then we have our normal triggers. We run 2 copies of Serene Maiden Lena and 2 copies of Frenzied Harris. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power for Harris. Grade 0 boost, 4k power, 5k shield for Lena. One's a draw trigger and one's a front trigger. They both have the same skill though, where if on guard circle, if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, they get 5,000 shield. So Lena's a 10k shield and Harris is a 20k shield. It has to have a little bit of extra defense power. Harris adds 10k to farmer when you drive check her, and Lena allows you to draw a card when you drive check her or damage check respectively for both, which is nice because one allows you to help increase the defensive power and get more cards to hand so you can draw more of your pieces, especially when you have a lot of grade 3s in your deck, and the other one allows you to add more numbers to the front row and outright pressure your opponent, so it's nice having both at 2. Then we have 3 crits and Peppery Pepper. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. You can make any crit you want. I choose to make a Peppery Pepper because why not? I think I copied this deck straight from Cristonios, and Cristonios crit was Peppery Pepper, so there you go. Then we have 4 copies of Spire Maiden Alana. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, about the sheep boosted. Put this unit to soul to choose one unit to give 2k for the turn, so it's nice because it's a way to get extra cards into your soul, which allows you to play more copies of your Soul Blasting 2 order. Not to mention the fact that 2k, depending on what your board presence looks like, can possibly make the difference, since Stoicheia also gives 5k to front row if you played an order that turn. So total 7 crit for the pressure with multi-attack, 2 front to help increase that multi-attack pressure, 2 draw to help draw your important pieces, and finally 4 heals and cheery support elf. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standard heal, and that's about it. You can relax any heal you want. I choose to make it cheery support elf because again I copied this from Cristonios, but you can also make it a counter heal if you want, though personally I'd rather have consistent 15k shield of the vanilla heals rather than the fluctuating 10 to 25k shield of the counter heals, but again you do you when building the deck. Moving on to our grade 1s, we run 4 copies of Persist Chloroforus. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear guard at the battle of this unit boosted or attacked. Put this unit to soul to check the top 7, choose up to 1 codex card from mana, and real put it to hand shuffle deck. All are pretty solid because doesn't matter what grade you're at, doesn't matter what grade the opponent's at, doesn't even matter if they attack kit, as long as it itself either attacked anything or boosted, and it can go into a rear guard for that as well, you get a free soul card, and then you also get to check the top 7 for one of your orders, which allows you to follow up plays on the next turn. All around, it's an amazing grade 1 because it allows you to be super aggressive in the early game and then still get your stuff set up for late game / on your first grade 3 turn, so you can outright pressure the opponent once you actually get there. All around, I like Chloroforus a lot as a grade 1, get you soul, get you an order possibly to hand, and is literally easy to pull off because the only way your opponent can stop this is if they either nullify its ability or they kill it before its ability goes off. So 4 Persis, just an amazing grade 1. And then we have 4 copies of Effectless Pyropersenis, grade 1, boost 5k shield, 8k base, auto rearguard when your unit in the same column as this unit stands by the ability of your grade 3 greater vanguard still hinge on the card name, put the unit to soul, draw a card, and then choose one music, give 5,000 power for the turn. Cool, all around it's a pretty solid grade 1 because again, it gets you another soul, so it allows you to play your order a little bit more consistently when a soul blast 2. It draws you a card, so it replaces itself, and someone gets 5k, so you can give it to the unit that stood in the same column. You could give it to your vanguard because the vanguard is standing them on attack. You can give it to your rear guard in the other column in case it doesn't have a booster. On Effectless Pyropersenis is a really great grade 1 because as you might see later in this video with the match, using 2 of them at once to stand them and then give their power to the restanding rear guard that gets an extra critical thanks to the order is super good, especially because again, it gets you multiple hand cards if you have multiple of them on board, and because they replace themselves, well, it's like getting guard power into your hand while still being super aggressive, and you get boosters for the first battle. All around Effectless Pyropersenis is a very good grade 1, and I like having it in the deck at a 4 of. It also looks like the, not the Zodiac Time Beast, what's it called? The Ultra Beast from, why am I getting all my games confused? I'm about to say from Yu-Gi-Oh! From Pokemon, Alola, Sun and Moon, there we go. And then we have our 4 copies of our PG in Honeycomb Thyrus, grade 1 boost, 0 souls, okay, basically 2 Sentinel to 4 Sentinels in deck, and also put on guard circle, choose a mute, it cannot be hit till the battle if your hand has 2 more cards in it, choose a card from your hand, discard it, standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically that means if this only one of the cards in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard it's great, because that means you be as aggressive in the early game, spam the ever-living out of this, spam the ever-living out of this, and then your opponent eventually counterattacks you, throw down Thyrus, and give them the middle finger, and you're good to go. All around, I love having this PG in the deck, especially because most of the time you have a lot of quote-unquote discard fodder because this deck gets a lot of grade 3s into its hand very quickly. Most of the times you won't be able to use that skill to get a free PG, but there are times where you will be able to use it, so there's that. You can run Custodial Dragon or Planet Prevent Dragon. They're the exact same skill as Thyrus. I just choose to make it Thyrus because it came out close to the time of Stoicheia's release, so 4 of. And that takes us, of course, to our last grade 1 in the deck. One of them in the right deck, none in the main deck, of Kusumana Mala Lamp. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when wrote upon by Luminary Gamaga. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck to choose up to 1 grade 3 or greater card with Stoicheia, or a Codex card from Unlimited Reveal to hand shuffle your deck. Cool, so it could either fetch you one of your 2 orders, or it could fetch you a Persona for later, which is super good. And then auto rear guard at the end of your turn. If you played a Codex card this turn, retire this unit, choose a grade 3 or greater card with Stoicheia in the card name from your drop zone, bounce it to your hand. Cool. Again, it's a way to get a Persona back to hand. The downside is it doesn't bounce back a Codex, which I feel like would be a lot more helpful, since a lot of the times you are going to end up with a lot of your Codexes in hand. You're going to have to constantly discard them for either ride deck or PG or something along those lines. So I feel like returning a Persona ride, while is nice, would be better if it was returning an order or both. It's still all around pretty solid as a grade 1. Most of the time, because it's only one of in the ride deck and in the main deck, your only way to get this out on board would be to soul blast it with the order and then call it back with the other one, which is a possibility, but most of the time you're not going to do that. But if you do, hey, it's a way to get a free Persona ride back to hand, and at least his on-road upon skill is pretty good, because again, it either gets you a Persona ride or gets you an order, or you possibly just whiff, which is what I do half the time. But still, really good grade 1 to have. I also love his art here with like the sword and like the chain just kind of getting ready for battle, or currently in battle in the middle of a dark forest. So easy 1 up in the right deck for me, none in the main deck, because you kind of want to focus on your more aggressive and consistency making units. Moving on to our grade 2s, we run 3 copies of Fly Over Vivartica, grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base, all done placed on rear guard circle, counter boss 1 to check the top 7 to choose up to 1 Codex card from among them, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle the deck. If you do not reveal a card, you get to draw a card. So basically, CB1, at least get a free hand card, because you're either getting the Codex order or you're drawing. Upsides to this, it gets you order. Downsides to this, most of the time, because of all the order searching you do via other cards, you're not going to get anything, so you're going to get a draw, which could be helpful, because it could maybe get you a PG, it could get you this, it could get you Chloroforce to get more cards and more soul. But at the same time, it can also make you draw a trigger, which is good for Guardian Power, but then that means you lose out a trigger that you would have drove checked, so take that as you will. And then continues rear guard. This unit gets 5,000 power for each Codex order you played this turn. Cool. There is a better card. You would rather get numbers for that skill, but hey, having 2 cards that end up getting 5k for each time you play an order this turn is still pretty solid. So 20k base with the ability to search your order. It is nice. If you want a suggestion, you could also run the grade 2 dual nation over this card, the one that's like the knight and the dragon, where when she's placed, check the top cards, either drop zone it or put it to top, and then CB1 to bounce an order from drop zone to hand. That way you can continue to use your orders, up to you, because they both cost the same CB, and honestly you go through a lot of your orders with this deck already, so don't really need to worry about searching more of it with this grade 2. But I like to have this for the power, so it's a 3-0 for me. Then we have 4 copies of Noble of Sorrow and Lament Deviate. Grade 2 NSF 5 Kashiro 10k base. I love how he's just like kind of so dark, because you know he's got like that dark blue moonlightish coloring over here, and then we just have just a random rainbow in the background, which honestly looks really good for the color scheme in my opinion. Anyways, auto when placed on rearguard circle from anywhere, drop zone, hand, deck, damage zone. If you have a grade 3 rearguard Vanguard or Stoicheia in the card name, ditch a hand card to search your deck for up to 1 codex card, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. Okay, all around pretty solid. It's basically swap a hand card for a codex card, which is nice. You could also just discard a card just to shuffle your deck, because maybe you're trying to guarantee the odds of triggers or try to up your chance of triggers. The downside to that is, again, you already go through a lot of your codex cards, and having to ditch a card for what probably had guard power for a card that doesn't have guarding power is kind of 50-50, but being able to get that codex out of deck is at least helpful, because it at least deck thins for triggers, and if you don't already have it in hand, because it gets a specific codex search and not just a top 7 search, which has a little bit RNG to it, you can at least guarantee you're going to be playing 2 codex cards a turn, because you can't play the same codex card the same turn that you played the same codex card. Very confusing sentence, but you get what I'm trying to say here. It'll be 4 copies of Deviant. Very nice grade 2 for fetching codex cards. I mean, he does it for free, and the only requirement is you have to be at grade 3 for it, so not a bad card to have in the deck as a 4 of. Moving on to our last grade 2 in the deck, we have one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, of Luminary Gamuga. Grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base, auto rolled upon by a grade 3 card with Stoicheia in the card name. So box 1 to search your deck for 1 codex card, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. Cool. Way to get any free codex card you want. So say for example your hand is overwhelmed with one of them, you can automatically use Gamaga to get the other one the second you hit grade 3, which is nice because it only costs 1 soul boss for it, which as we've seen so far the deck only does with soul charging it, so that's not going to be too hard to pull off. And then auto when placed on rearguard circle, if you played a codex card this turn, you soul charge 1 and he'll get 5,000 power for the turn. So being a 15k with a free soul charge is nice for an on plays, but just like the grade 1, most of the time you will not be using this skill because you have better call targets, and the only way to get this thing onto board is to be a soul blast it out via one of the codexes and call it via the other one. But you know, worst case scenario, if you do call it out, it is a free soul charge, so at least cut the first codex card in half, and then it also makes itself a 15k, but counting the order, it makes itself a 20k for that turn. Around Gamoga is a very decent grade 2, at least gets you the free codex search when you ride on top of it, and it's a soul charge with a 5k if you do manage to call it to rearguard circle, so it's a nice having a one of in the ride deck, but you don't need it in the main deck because we rather have more searchers or more consistent way to get the orders out rather than just a soul charge and a 5k. And then we move on to our grade 3s. We finally have the orders that we've been talking about this entire time. First up is the Principles of Non-Self, the more aggressive order. Grade 3 normal order. Play this card if you have a grade 3 get a Vanguard with Stoicheia in the card name and do not play an order with the same name as this card this turn. Choose a grade 3 less card for your drop zone, call it to rearguard circle, and until end of the turn it gets 5,000 power. And your opponent's Vanguard's at grade 3 or greater, it also gets the ability auto rearguard once per turn. When this unit stands by your card's ability, this unit gets +1 critical for the turn. All around, pretty solid. For literally no cost, no soul blast, no counter blast, no discard, no nothing. As long as your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, play this, fetch out any card from your drop zone that's a grade 3 or less, and give it 5k, so 9 times out of 10 it's going to hit anyways, because even if it is a trigger of any of the sorts, thanks to Stoicheia's ability over here being able to add 5,000 power to the front row, automatically it's going to be able to hit something now, which is great if your opponent's at grade 3. But if they are at grade 3, that unit also gets the ability to get an extra crit when it restands, which is really helpful with Stoicheia's ability to actually get the restand off. So 4 copies of this order, literally no cost at all. Once you hit grade 3, you at least get a free rearguard call and a free 5k. Does that rearguard call it that? And if your opponent's also at grade 3, well, you double the power that this thing gives and you get an extra crit on top of it, so it's a very solid 4 of in the deck. That then brings us to 4 copies of the Principles of Unsatisfactionness, grade 3 normal order. Play your Vanguards a grade 3 grade with Stoicheia in the card name and do not play a card with the same name as this turn, so you can play 2 codex cards a turn thanks to the skill of your main grade 3. Just keep in mind that you can't play both of them if they're the same copy. And then your opponent gets all of your Vanguards, so all of their Vanguards, lose 3,000 power, so if they're at grade 2, they're a 7k base. If they're at grade 3, they're a 10k base until end of your opponent's next turn. So pretty good that you can play that regardless of what grade the opponent's at and essentially screw them them over while you're still multi-attacking your opponent, because Stoicheia can at least get one extra attack from playing one Codex card. And then if you put another Codex order this turn, Soul Blast 2 to draw a card, and then your opponent gets all your vanguards, their vanguards again, lose a drive until end of your opponent's next turn. This effect is not lost even if your opponent's vanguard was ridden, because that ability is given specifically to the opponent and not the opponent's vanguard. So the vanguard loses power, making it easier for you to rush them and making it easier for you to defend against their vanguard specifically. And then if you put another Codex, if you're willing to drop 2 soul, you get an extra hand card, and then your opponent also loses a drive, meaning if they even have something like triple drive, well, they're still going down to twin drive. All of the principles of unsatisfactoriness is pretty good because it allows for you to kind of mess with your opponent both defensively and offensively. And both orders are honestly pretty decent to play regardless of what grade the opponent's at. I mean, granted, you want to save non-self, technically speaking, for your opponent's grade 3 turn, so you can get the extra crit off your restand, while unsatisfactoriness allows you to be a little bit more aggressive before they hit grade 3 and then guarantee that you survive to your next grade 3 turn. But all around, both orders are pretty good. Minuses power and gets drive minus, and then superior calls and gets crits, so obviously this is a 4-up to go alongside this one. Following that brings us to 4 copies of Hurtful Pombadilio. Grade 3 turn percent, 13k base, continues rear guard. This unit gets 5,000 power for each Codex order you played this turn. So like I said earlier with Fly over here, there was one card that had a better version of its skill, and this would be that card. So being a 23k base, since you're going to plan to play 2 orders a turn, is nice. And then auto from a rear guard circle. When your vanguard is attacked by your opponent's rear guard, retire this unit to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and decrease that unit's power by the original power until end of the turn. Essentially, say for example, your opponent is swinging with their buffed up rear guard that's currently at 20k plus an 8k boost, so 28k, and that unit original power is 10k. Well, if you retire Hurtful Pombadilio, you'll make that unit lose power equal to its original power, which was 10,000, so now it's at 18k, meaning that original 20k guard is now a 10k guard. All around, that makes for this a very good grade 3, because again, it adds more aggressive power during your turn with the free 5k for each Codex order you play, but also it allows you to screw over your opponent offensively, because if you have 2 leads on the front row, screw their attacking units that end up having higher power than their original power, and they have their same original power, and that's going to make the difference between the attack hitting or not. Like say for example, they didn't get any buffs, and it's an 18k column swing, kill Hurtful Pombadilio, screw over the attacking unit, boom, it no longer hits. All around, very good grade 3 for defensive pressure and also offensive pressure as well. And not to mention the fact it's a 28k, the turn it's called by this. Technically speaking, it's a 33k because call it via this, give it 5k, so it's at 18. Then play another order, so it's at 23. Then its other skill allows you to add another 5k because you play total 2 orders that turn, so it's at 28. Plus Stoicheia skill we're about to go over, so that's a total of 33. So pretty good, not counting Personalize or triggers. So for Pombadilio, just good all around for offense and defense. Which brings us, of course, to our last card on the deck. 3 of the main deck, 1 of the right deck, of Venerable Stoeirhaja. Grade 3 to 10%, 13k base, continues Vanguard Circle during your turn. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater and you did play a Codex card this turn, regardless if you played more than 1, as long as you played at least 1, all of your front units get 5,000 power for this turn. All that's pretty solid because in late game scenarios, you might not end up having 2 copies of the order, which means you have to only play 1. So it's good that as long as you play 1, you get 5k to front row. And then auto Vanguard once per turn, when you would play a normal order, if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater till end of the turn, you can play an additional order this turn, but you cannot play orders other than Codex orders. So on the bright side, that ability allows you to play any order you want for the first one, and then after that you can only play Codex orders, but at least that always guarantees you can play 2 orders a turn. So say for example, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works, you can play Spiritual Body Condensation on the first order, you can play second order this turn. The downside is you can only play Codex orders, and then you play this one, for example, to get an extra rear guard and extra critical. All around, Stoicheia is pretty good because, again, it allows you to play 2 orders a turn. At the very least, even if it only restricts you to playing Codex orders for the entire turn and not just the one before it, it at least allows you to get the free restand and 1 critical target, and it also allows you to screw over your opponent's board with 3k minus and a drive minus. And then finally, auto Vanguard when the attacks into anything, whether it's a Vanguard or rear guard, regardless of the grade. CB1 to choose one of your rear guards for each Codex order you played this turn, stand it. All pretty solid because thanks to our grade 2 over here, you're at least always going to be able to probably get off this one or this one. I mean, you're always going to get at least 1 restand out, whether your opponent at a 7k base or you have a rear guard with an extra 5k on top of it. And it's just nice for all around offensive pushing. Honestly, I didn't like Stoicheia that much when it first came out, but this grade 3 does have a good balancing skill with it, with again the ability to get 5 kick to the front row once you play an order with the opponent's at grade 3, getting multiple orders played at once, and that CB1 Resistance skill is honestly really good because there's no restrictions to it at all, as long as you play at least one Codex order. So it's a 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, which brings us to the end of the deck profile. I hope all of you enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is a little bit more fun to play than what I thought it was. I still have my more preferences out of all the decks that were originally released, mainly that being Kota Blaze now, and Grand Dogma / Sacrifice Glass, because those are really fun to play. But without further ado, I'm going to this one here. I'm sorry this one was a little bit fast. I kind of left myself last minute for editing and recording and uploading, which means I kind of have to start editing right after I record this one. But that's it for DZ set 6 deck profiles. So I hope all of you enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed the new layout that I'm trying out. If you guys have any comments on how to make it better, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I will hopefully be able to make adjustments by the time we do more deck profiles. So I'll see you all then. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and join us on Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to sign up your vanguards.